and we're handling it. Yes.
And then just next to me is Namuli Robina, who happens to be a community service officer, still under Ministry of Internal Affairs. A lovely morning to you, Namuli.
Good morning.
Very interesting. I enjoy when I have a lady and you're discussing issues regarding sentencing. Recently I was reading through and I came across a very scaring article. Actually that was released on Women's Day, where they were showing a number of women that are in prisons because of crimes of passion. I was like, oh, so it's not only for the men there, but also a number of women sometimes find themselves in prisons. Yet some are over offenses that maybe necessarily would not necessitate their arrest and eventual detention in prisons. Now, to begin with you, Augustus, when we talk about community service,
yes,
I want you to give me not the technical explanation, but a definition to a layman to understand what is this, how long has it been here?
Okay. Community service is a non-custodial punishment. After conviction, the court, with the consent of the offender, the consent, that one is key. The consent of the offender makes an order for that offender to go and serve his community. That is generally what we can call community service or community service order. And it is given by court, like I said, where court, mostly for us, we sit at the chief magistrate courts. However, even high court, they give community service. But mostly we look at small offenses, or what we call minor offenses in nature. And we look at also the participation on how someone participated in committing the crime. We also look at the remorsefulness of the offender. Those are the key things that a magistrate look at when they are giving that sentence. Yes, please.
Namuli, we've talked about what you look at, and one first is remorselessness of the offender, as rightly mentioned. Most of the times when you talk about non-custodian sentence, this means that this person is not detained.
It's true.
So they are going back to communities. So community service then becomes very interesting. First, let's understand when we talk about minor offenses, because me, I would say maybe someone steals my chicken, I would feel it is grave. I have one, you've taken everything. Maybe one would say, just a chicken thief. And we have that saying usually, chicken thief, just a chicken thief. But where the person whose chicken has been stolen, maybe this is all he had. So what do we refer to in terms of minor offenses here?
What we term these minor offenses, like this hawking, theft, even chicken, they can give community service. Once you agree with the victim that you have done this, I won't do it again. And it matters the circumstance under which the offense was committed. Because there is somebody who stole somebody's jackfruit. After stealing, he cut it, he found it was low, urinated on it. Then they came to court. The circumstance under which that person committed, so I'm just saying, no, you did this, I'm not going to give you community service. So the circumstance under which you committed the offense matters most. Yeah.
Maybe more light,
more light. When she was talking, I wanted our viewers out there to know really what a minor offense is, because for us as community service, we have where we derive our powers from, what we call the Community Service Act. Now the Community Service Act that was enacted in 2001 says that a minor offense or a case that is eligible for community service is that offense where a maximum sentence does not attract more than 2 years. That's what they term as a minor offense. However, when we look at the theft cases, theft The theft, the whole as the theft, even if it is chicken, even if it is a cow, even if it is a vehicle, even if it is 300 million, that is theft. It doesn't matter the value of the subject matter, but theft attracts a maximum sentence of 10 years. Now, when you look at 10 years, now you'll ask yourself, the Act says not more than 2 years as the maximum sentence. That is the eligible offense. But here, that's when we bring in the participation bit of it, other factors, how the offender participated in committing the offense, how remorseful is the offender. You find a magistrate being inclined to giving community service rather than sending this person to prison. And we are going to talk about the objectives, and you'll find that some of the key things that they look at is to reduce government expenditure. It does not, at the beginning you talked about someone stealing a chicken, and this is the only chicken you have. Yes, it is true. But court looks at this person who is going to be sent to prison. When he has stolen a chicken of 30, isn't a chicken about 30,000 in Kampala, even in Kampala, even in the village around. You send someone, spends 300,000. The government spends on that offender 300,000. It's not logical. Sometimes maybe the person has committed the offense for the first time. The circumstance was that the person never had anything to eat. It was maybe or the only option. Then you give them a second chance. That's why what I wanted to bring out, that regardless of the minor bit of it, we look at the circumstance of the offense.
Well, looking at the circumstances of the offense, we also now want to understand, how do you handle public perception? Because most of the times, and Amuli, you find that even police bond has had issues. Person says it is legal. A person 48 hours, then give him bond. Some people have alluded to that this is why we see increased mob justice. Now when you go to community service, how do you factor in that acceptance by community, that knowing that yes, there was something done, though the colleague is sweeping?
When you look at our activities, community service, by the way, only that we have gone a bit far, but I had to tell you that community service, it is a directorate under the Ministry of Internal Affairs. It has its own stipulated activities. Regardless, like for example, me, I sit at Machinde Court, Machinde Chief Magistrate's Court. She sits at City Hall Court, but we are under Ministry of Internal Affairs. Like you can see police, prisons, and other departments, immigration, and so on and so forth. When you look at this person who has committed the offense, what comes into the mind of the community service officer? First of all, you all know that this person has where he comes from. Maybe where he has committed the offense is a neighbor or father. And we do many activities like sensitization. We sensitize the community. We have very many avenues. We have LC meetings. In Uganda, we have community service officers in different districts. And it's them to look for some opportunities to inform people that community service order is a punishment. It's not just going like around sweeping, because there is much hard work. When you are sent to KCCA to clear the drainage, this is hard work. But what court looks at is to make sure that this person who has committed a small offense, let him be given a second chance. Let him be with the family and his community as he serves the sentence. And when you talk about, the one you talk about of how people look at it, yes, we know people will look at it as someone who has been forgiven, but when you have explained to them, they really understand. And we never stop at that. we have to engage victims. For example, they have stolen your chicken. You are grieved. You came to court because someone stole your chicken. And we do, in our activities, like I told you earlier, we do what we call reconciliatory meetings. We counsel the victim and the offender so that they are on the same page. We can say, look, this person has stolen your chicken, you are grieved, yes, but this person can be sent to prison for 1 full year. Again, they will come back to the same community. When they have not changed, when they are not remorseful, when they have not known what they have been punished of. But for us, we go ahead to look at counseling that offender plus the victim, make sure that they can be at the same page. You never know. You have to dig deep. Why did this person commit the offense against this one? Then at the end of it, you find the victim has understood, has accepted. Hey, community service is not just like that. It is a punishment because someone will really suffer. Because doing unpaid work, for example, let me ask you, doing unpaid work, do you really feel okay? You've been arrested. You accept the case, and you have been told to go and serve at KCCA. You put on a community service jacket. You go dig, suffer for 4 hours in a day, taking like a full month. You really feel it. Because it is a punishment. We don't look at it like that. Then another thing, when the court is sentencing, mostly, it will give the victim a compensation. For example, during the sentence, for example, someone has been brought to court, has pleaded guilty. After pleading guilty, then during sentence, someone gives mitigation. He says, I have many children, please don't send me to prison. Then court will look at that person. When that person is remorseful, then court will say, now, okay, you are remorseful, you have said so and so, but there is a victim aside or you on your side. Now, we are giving you community service, for example, of 100 hours to work maybe at Chibuye police station. After doing that work, please do compensate the complainant for the loss of their chicken. You get? So when you look at that, the victim will not look at it as maybe, mostly by the way, only that most victims come through criminal channels. They always want compensation. That is the most thing they need. When you bring that bit of compensation, they tend to now calm down. Yes, he has compensated me. Again, he has been given a punishment to work from home. It's a fair deal. Yes.
Very interesting, the compensation element there, but also this being a non-custodian sentence where people still remain with their communities, with their families, but they're just given work to do now. Namuli, let's look at the objectives of this. Really in the brains of the people that came out with community service, which is not only something that happens in Uganda, globally. I've been reading about community service. Many countries embrace this. Actually, many countries now are no longer interested in holding people in prisons. They're looking for other non-custodian sentences. That is where the world is heading to, because they have to decongest prisons. They have to limit government expenditures on prisons. Objectives for community service. Objectives
of community service. As you say that it was brought to decongest prisons, reduce on government expenditure. Yes, it's true. The objectives, they all fall in the same category. One, there is to bring reconciliation between the offender and the victim. Maybe my colleague can add on that.
Yes, thank you, Namuli. She talks about reconciliation. I've already talked about it. When you have these two, when someone is being sentenced at court, and they are given a custodial punishment, they are immediately given a paper, committal order, and they are taken in the bus. They even have no time to interact with the victim, because the sentence is a sentence for a criminal matter. Now, bring that person outside that very day. Good enough when the victim is around. You bring them together. There is some gap, always. So what she has talked about, reconciliation of the offender and the victim, you reconcile them, then it helps in one or the other. Or maybe it helps that person will not commit the similar offense against the other one. Or this one, the aggrieved party may not come up to revenge because they have had it all, they have had counseling. Then another thing, we have rehabilitation of the offender. We have very many rehabilitation projects. We have bricklaying, we have tree planting projects, and those offenders that are sentenced at courts, there are most of them where courts have those projects, they are sent to those projects. Take an example of a bricklaying project. Someone has been jobless, but while he was serving for free, he has gotten a chance to serve at a bricklaying project. He has acquired skills. From those skills, maybe what has been bringing all that issue of stealing and that is lack of job. Now he knows how to lay bricks. You get it? So that person will be rehabilitated. Will maybe go out there, begin their own work, their own job, and start on that. Another thing, some people are sent to do some work in hospitals, and when they reach those hospitals, maybe they do extremely good. They do the job very well. And you find the placement institution has got an interest to employ that person. That person can be taken still. We have also reducing on reoffending. This is another objective. You reduce the chances of the offender to re-offend, because all this interaction, counseling, home visits, we do home visits, we do reconciliation meetings. All those are activities that are trying to curb the reoffending of that particular offender. Yes, please. Now
let's also look at who is eligible for community service, because much as we know, it's an non-custodian. If it doesn't attract a sentence of maximum of 2 years, then someone. But let's get to know the nitty-gritties there. How does a person get access community service? Who qualifies and who doesn't? Maybe Namuli, if you're at liberty for that.
Yeah, somebody eligible for community service must be first-time offender.
Oh.
Yeah.
First time?
First-time offender. Not this one keeping on doing the same thing. Yeah, habitual. There is also somebody who is remorseful. Somebody can come, I want community service, but you see personally the person is not remorseful. He's still having that habit. I don't think. But they keep on doing the same thing. You can witness yourself that this person, however much he's asking for community service, he will do the same thing tomorrow. Another thing, the person must be a resident, must be having somewhere he stays. For example, you cannot give community service somebody who doesn't have where to. So where will you find him in case he defaults? Yeah, those are the things we look at. Another thing, we have somebody must be with minor case like safety, how they told us that he doesn't exceed 5 million. Like hawking, those are the things the minor offenses we deal on. Yeah.
Augustus, would you want to supplement on that?
Yes, thank you, moderator. And she talked about everything that we look at. Just a number, remorsefulness of the offender to add on. That person must be a first offender by record. However, we have a challenge out there. you find the record of someone shows on the police file, because we have what we call a police file. When they check the police file, they find no record that someone has ever been brought in the books of the court. We have minor offenses, like he has said. We have earlier talked about the type of minor offenses, and we said, however, that person can be given community service to an offense that is not minor, looking at the participation of the offense. Yes.
Now also this brings me to know, how is this done? Namuli, you're a community service officer. You said that is a city hall?
Yeah.
At City Hall. So how is community service rolled out? If I have a suspect, maybe a hawker, like one of the crimes you've mentioned, do they work in that particular area, City Hall where you are? Do they go to their communities where they come from? How is community service rolled out?
How we do, once the person pleads guilty, when the magistrate gives an order, before sensitization, and you identify the person that this one is eligible for community service, we go to court. After giving an order, the person must be given community service where he comes from. For example, if it's a person stays in Namuwongo, we find a public institution like schools, hospitals, police stations, where the person doesn't need to incur transport costs, and where even the community knows him or yeah.
To add on, moderator, when you look at the sentencing type, when she talked about that person must be having a permanent place of abode, where they come from. Now, on where they come from, if the City Hall Court sentences somebody, maybe who is from Kasangati, City Hall is called to be a sentencing court. Then there is another court of Kasangati. The City Hall Court can send that person, that particular offender who is from Kasangati, to that side of Kasangati, and it gives supervisory powers to that court. Of course, like you know that we have said, Namulis is there, we have Wakiso, there's an officer in every district, there's a chief magistrate courts have officers. That person can be sent to that place and they perform their work. Then that court becomes now a supervising court. And there is always that person may be a community service officer who can always give report back to the sentencing court.
Well, viewer, we are discussing community service, a non-custodian sentence that is available in our sentencing guidelines, where you shouldn't necessarily have to be detained, yet there is this option. But there is something very tricky I find with community service. The many times I've been in court, not as a suspect, never, God forbid, but the times I've been to court following up a few cases professionally in my line of duty, there's this plea in guilty to the crime. I've had many when they are told, well, when you go before the magistrate, I have to plead guilty and show remorse, then ask. If possible, you get community service. An ordinary person, that is where they begin. Who on earth has ever gone before a magistrate and said, yes, I committed the crime? They believe after accepting, the next is, yes, you've not wasted court's time. However, instead of 10 years, I sentence you to 5. Namuli, how easy is this? And, why is that one of the requirements? Pleading guilty of the offense or the crime?
Of course, you must have done that crime, because you can't force somebody that you plead guilty when the person is not willing. He's saying,
Someone may want to get out of cells and they want their liberty, and maybe, because that is where sometimes I question service. I'm like, yes, you know, not everyone who is in who is arrested actually commits that offense. Then community service of me. You know, that is where I want more light, because sometimes people, if I am arrested, say, and I know I'm before a magistrate, and if I ask for community service, I'm let off the hook, not necessarily because you still have some work to do, fine, but I'm not going into Chitalia, you know.
Thank you. When you look at, you said that one of the, what makes a magistrate think that this person is remorseful, and I really want to give him community service. We said one of it, we must plead guilty. It's true, and that shows some kind of remorse. It is already a remorse. When someone appears in front of your eyes and says, please, I committed this offense, please forgive me. It's a sign of remorsefulness. Now, we have said this person has to appear and plead guilty. We have a challenge of the lawyers within the court cells and prison cells that come and lie to this accused person that, please, when you reach there, a magistrate, you cannot say, I am guilty, and they will sentence you maybe a harsh punishment. We have that challenge, but it's not the way it is. It is said in the cells by other offenders. It is not true. We have talked about many factors what a magistrate can look at and say this person can get community service. It is not that when you reach in the court, you appear there, actually this is a what do you call it? A misfortune, like a misfortune. Is it a myth? A myth, eh? That when you reach before a magistrate, and you plead guilty, that person, the magistrate gets annoyed too much, and they give you a harsh sentence. It is not true. To add on something, we said it is one of the requirements for someone to be given community service that they have to plead guilty. Still, we have those that don't plead guilty, that go through a full trial. After full trial, maybe the magistrate again gives or grants a community service order. We have those scenarios. We are not putting it only pleading guilty. Though, like I said in the beginning of answering, when I was answering you, that it shows kind of remorse. Because when the magistrate is giving, you will say, even the state seat, we have always sat in court and had the proceeding, they will say, the accused person has not wasted court's time and government resources. Therefore, you can give him a deterrent sentence or a lenient sentence. That is why the pleading guilty at the first plea of taking, or someone accepting the offense, that is why they are always encouraged to plead guilty instead of wasting court's time. And you reach there, then court will now have issues on you after trial. Actually, there are not many. We don't get many community service orders after trial. There are always harsh sentences because you have first of all wasted court's time. You know you had committed the offense. Why didn't you plead guilty in the first place, other than wasting court's time?
Well, Namuli, now let's go to how do we prepare these people that qualify for community service? Because we want to know, is it that when they are arrested, because I want to believe, I've seen a number of hawkers that were arrested by KCCA, the number that have qualified for community service. But I've equally seen many that have gone, yet they qualify. I've seen many petty offenders there. I don't want to use the word, but let me use it just to show pain. That is rotting, one would call it. Detained in prisons, and people will even point at them and say, "Katioya bankoko," you know. But he's spent here 3 years. I tell you, Yabankoko is sitting 2 years remand. Then you wonder that they're investigating over one chicken, but that is the law that we succumb to as a country. So how does one get to know how they access these? Because we've seen that those that will go on remand, then they come, get community service. But we've also seen for some crimes that immediately upon arrest, for example, what KCCA does, you know how that court operates there, that for them there isn't this issue of we are investigating, you appeal, you do what, gotten there before the magistrate, either you're released or you go to the purple van.
What we do, once people they are brought to go to court or they are still in detention, we go there, we identify them. We have a form called the presenters form. We fill in, we ask them their details, where they stay. If they have national ID, you copy the NINI number, the crime. You fill in if the person is willing to do community service, and most will write. There is also where we write reasons why that person must be given community service. The person might be pregnant, is having somebody sick at home. You give those reasons. After the person signs on it, you take it to the file. The magistrate look at it. Yeah, you wanted to community service? Yes. Where do you stay? The details are there. Yeah, that's the procedure.
So they you prepare them before?
Yes, we prepare them.
Yes, Augustus?
Yes, to make it broader, we have talked about a number of activities that we do. And we always begin at sensitization.
Okay.
Sensitization begins at when they are choosing person, leave alone the sensitization of community sensitization. That one you can do it anywhere, and even if there is no offender, you can sensitize them and then get to know about community service and all that. When we meet the offender, we mostly meet the offender at police when they are just fresh. We just go there, sensitize them. All of them, you sensitize them in the general, you do what we call identification. I'm not taking you through the process, how we come to even getting ready to be given community service. We do sensitization. After sensitizing all of them, we do what we call identification. Identification is done on those people who are eligible and those who are willing to plead guilty. Maybe, for example, it is a police. We do sensitization at police, even prisons, because we cannot meet all the offenders. Some will skip and maybe pass when they have not been sensitized and they are in prison. They are remanded to prison. When they are remanded to prison, still we visit prisons. We do sensitization. And on those ones, we encourage them to change their plea. You remember they are in prison on remand because they didn't plead guilty to their offenses. Now, when you reach there, you tell them how community service can benefit them. You tell them how they can apply for it. You tell all those things. Then you do, like I said, we do identification. Identify those that are eligible. Those with minor offenses, those are willing to plead guilty. After identifying them, she has talked about a pre-sentencing report. Mostly it's called a social inquiry report. And this includes the case that someone is committed of, has committed. It includes the biodata of the offender. It includes where that person stays. It includes, you probe more. You ask whether this person has committed an offense before. It includes the past criminal record of the offender, the background of the offender, then the view of the victim. If the victim is around, you can still ask them. Actually, you can have a chance to interact with them at that particular moment when you are doing what we call social inquiry report. Then you can sign on it, then forward that pre-sentence report to a magistrate. That form itself, when it appears on a court file, it will show the magistrate that there is someone who wants to plead guilty, who doesn't want to waste court's time, and he has a minor offense. Of course, he has to look at it. And another thing we have, what we call engaging stakeholders. At that particular moment, we need to engage the state, because the state always possesses the police file, and it includes maybe the record of the offender, how the offender was arrested, how they committed the offense, and how they ended up being brought to court. You consult them, and when you find him fit for that person to be given community service, since you have already sensitized them, they go ahead and plead guilty. And the magistrate will be guided by that pre-sentencing report. Yeah.
Well, now let's look at coverage. Namuli, when we talk about community service, is it accessible in all the courts we have in this country right now, or is it still, because I remember there was once it went towards a pilot project. So does any Ugandan, wherever they are, in case they find themselves in such a position, they are petty offenders, they can't act, they attract, in case they were be convicted, a maximum of 2 years, and they feel really, is it anywhere in any courts?
Yeah, it's now a directorate. It's no longer a problem with select directorate. Now each court, each district, there is a community service officer. Yeah, there's somebody there to help them out. Yeah.
I love that, that now we know. But also, Augustus, this brings me to this. She said it's now nationwide. Any part of this country you can access. But there's also a problem of human resource. Do we have then the community service officers? Because there must be the likes of you that are going to carry out ensuring this person really serves the non-custodian sentence that he has been granted by the magistrate.
Yeah, thank you. Like she said, that's now a directorate. It is no longer now a pilot study or something like that. It is now a recognized directorate, and it is in the ministry, well known. It has its own staff. They have their work schedules. They know what they have to do. And to go to what you have just talked about, in the direct now, of recent, there was an advert. They advertised for about 25 positions of a community service officer. I think because now they have seen a need, and it's now a directorate, and really there must be an enforcing power, or because of now increasing the staffing, so that the community service order can be well maintained. They have now tried to increase on the staff, because the advert is already out. Now actually they are going to do the interviews just next week. No, this week. So you will, and before they had recruited a number also, putting them on in several districts, and they are there working to implement the community service work.
Well, thank you so much, and I know our viewer, you're benefiting so much when it comes to issues of community service, because we want to decongest our prisons, and not everything really should end with detention. Sometimes some of these petty criminals, it is just situations that led them there, and of course there is so much. I just imagine when someone is detained, they are cut off from their family, but here a person can still serve their sentence, non-custodian sentence, but also fend for their families in other forms. Even in terms of keeping family together, I think this is one of the areas that we must embrace as a country, and the public must understand that where this person is still serving a sentence, the only difference is they are not at any prison in this country. Let me have your final remarks, Anamuli, regarding community service.
My final remarks are that people should embrace community service. It's there to help our community and to reduce government expenditure. Now we have the roads, they are too bad. Now, if that money diverted to the roads, our country will grow. Yeah.
Well, I love it. Will improve on government's expenditure. I always ask myself, this person commits a crime, when they are sick, they are treated, what is spent on them daily, all this money maybe could be saved. Augustus, your final remarks regarding community service this morning.
Thank you, moderator. To all our viewers, I really think, and I want to encourage you to always have knowledge, listen to, we have different avenues where we deliver information. We have the website, can read about community service, and please embrace this community service because it helps. And I want to encourage those who have people maybe are rotting, like what you said, they are rotting in prisons, there is a remedy. There is a solution of community service, and the moment you are remorseful and you show court that you can work from outside, you can do the punishment from outside. Community service is here to help you, and they don't, we actually, moderator, we did not finish some of the other activities we do, even after sentencing. Maybe next time we shall have time and come here, then talk about what we do after someone has been sentenced. We have home visits, we visit the offenders, we have a placement visit, we have counseling them at their places wherever they go. All those things are the activities we do. When people are given community service, they are given second chance. And I want to appeal to those criminals to please deter yourself from committing offenses. And that is our cry. When we get chance to get an offender, that offender must be reformed, and we really wish that person should not commit another offense again.
Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, one of the issues that comes out here is rehabilitation is saving government monies, but also in one way or the other, pushing for reconciliation, which, well, isn't community service, this may not happen. Well, this is an opportunity that you have. Maybe you have a relative, you have a friend, and also you as an individual. Anyone is a potential prisoner, you never know when. But if that offense can allow you or is eligible for you to get community service, then it is in our sentencing guidelines. Let's embrace this. And finally, Ugandans, not every person, every offense, we should cherish detention. We should look at reconciliation and remorsefulness of the person who has committed this offense. Have a lovely day. God bless you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Express.